Hey guys, welcome to this week's weekly bookish chat, where I'm going to tell you about the books that I read this week, which in numerical value sound like a lot, but it turns out that I read a lot of short books and then like one decently large book. But first, let's talk about some fun bookish news. It's probably not as fun as last week's book darts, which I was overly excited about, but earlier this week I officially launched a homeschool podcast that is honestly like 90% going to be about books, because as much as I love talking about books here, there are so many books I don't talk about, books that my kids read or we read in our homeschool, or I generally share the middle grade books I read myself, but not always all of them. And so I started that as another outlet. So if you like middle grade books, or if you have kids that like books or you want them to like books, then check out the podcast. It's at Intentional Homeschooling, so I will have it on YouTube, and then I also do have it, I think, on like the majority of the podcasting platforms by now. The whole setting up a podcast is new to me, so I'm figuring it out as I go. But if you want more bookish stuff, especially like middle grade or kid recommendations, check that out. Okay, so I have 4 short books that I have finished this week, 1 large book that I finished, like flew through, it felt like, and then 1 book that I'm going to be starting tonight that I'm going to talk about. So these are my short books. I mean, so there's 4 of them, but they're like pretty much just as thick as my 1 book. Let's talk about the short ones first though. I'll start with this one. It's Wildflower Pages. This is a poetry book by Brittany Litster. I don't know why my tongue has troubles with this. She has an S in between 2 T's, and some reason it's really hard to say. I think I gave this 5 stars. I really enjoyed some of her poems. On the back here it says, Wildflower Pages is a collection of poetry that carries peace, joy, and love, precious gifts given to us by God. And they are just beautiful, Christian, inspiring poetry. She has gotten an illustrator to illustrate different wildflowers throughout, which is kind of cool. But the poems aren't really about wildflowers. I marked up a ton that I was enjoying and loving to varying degrees. And so, yeah, I'm excited about this poetry collection. I want to like write down some of these poems and kind of think about them a little bit more. And I'm definitely going to be buying any future poetry collections that she makes. Oh, and I have been painting today. There's definitely paint in my hair. There's paint all over my fingers. Painted before this, going to be painting after this, so I didn't really care to completely clean myself up, just in case you're wondering why I have random white specks everywhere. I think last week I was using my Sherlock mug. Today I have my like books and flowers metal camping mug. I think I should just do like a different bookish mug every week in February while I do these bookish chests. That'd be fun. This was available in my Etsy shop. I'm pretty sure I put my Etsy shop on vacation for a bit, so it's currently not available. It might come back. Okay, these next 2 are part of a series. They are novellas that come before, oh, why am I blanking on the full story? Twice Sold Tales. So the author Shatona Havig sent me these, and then also the book, and I messaged her and I'm like, what order should I read them in? Because you gotta do what the order the author wants. And she said, read these first, or that was her suggestion, because we're introduced to a character in here who comes into play in the novel. So I was like, well, that works out well, because I can justify squeezing in 2 short books before I've finished my TBR for the month, but it's harder to justify squeezing in a whole novel. So I went and I read these. So let's start with this one. So Spines and Leaves comes first. And in this we are introduced to this man named Milton, and he's in both books. And what he does is he rescues businesses that are struggling and gives them tips on how they can revive their business. And so he is on vacation and he comes across Spines and Leaves, which is a bookstore set in Orange County, California. And they're struggling, and he helps revive it. And after this book I was like, okay, obviously I really want to open a bookstore now. I actually even left a comment on my, like a little Goodreads review, because it just made me want to start a bookstore so much. And I don't normally like actually write reviews on Goodreads, I just do star ratings. So I enjoyed this book. And then I read the next one, which is called Hart of Noel. It's set in a city, where were they? I forget which state, Missouri, where during the month of December they are the Christmas city, and they calling the city Noel is acceptable, but it's actually Noel. So same thing, Milton comes across a bookstore. This one's called Hart of Noel. Hart is the last name of one of the characters, and this one, I think I gave this book 4 stars, maybe 4.5. This one I loved like even more. I was tabbing all the things. I really liked our main character. So his name is Well, actually, it's so funny. It says Josh here. He does not like the name Josh. He is Joshua. He's struggling to, keep his bookstore afloat, and I just liked so much about it. First of all, there is a cat mascot for the store. His name is Parnassus, and one of my patrons has been reading a book. I'm totally blanking on what it's called now, because of the full-length novel of this, where Parnassus is a character. So yeah, so you got the cat thing going, and then there is just these characters that strongly dislike each other. So they've got the bookstore owner, Joshua, and then the bakery across the street, the owner, her name is Honey, and they get paired up in this, I can't think of what the word is, like the town is attempting to revive itself, so they're pairing up businesses to try to promote business. And Honey is thinking, after she finds out that they've been paired up together, she's like, I'll take the funeral home before him, which just cracked me up, that how much they disliked each other. And then I always mention how I love her humor. There's like one line in here where it says, the apology he had begun to formulate withered faster than the evil woman in Tangled. And I mean, Tangled is probably the best princess movie that there is. And yes, I can visualize that so well. So I really enjoyed this one. So many things. So Milton has a parrot. It's a miniature parrot or something, and his name is Atticus. And so far they've not completely intentionally, for both of them, gone to help bookstores. And I'm excited to read the full-length novel, which I will, not sure I'm going to get to this month, but hopefully March. Although for March, I do plan on sharing on my like homeschool podcast, that's mostly about books, a list of possibilities for middle grade March, assuming that's happening. I haven't seen any announcement videos yet, but I'm assuming it's still happening. I'm going to share a list of possibilities for March apart from my TBR, so there might be a lot of books I try to get to in March. Okay, I took a quick break to adjust things because it was getting really bright. The last little book, yes, is Young Agatha Christie. This is a really cool graphic novel about Agatha Christie when she was a child, or at least this author's take on her, and it was pretty funny. So I got this from a patron for Christmas, and it was enjoyable. So there's it's pretty much a collection of comics. Each page, or sometimes the spread, is a different comic. And we're starting off right away with the doll's tea party, and young Agatha, she has a doll that's named Miss Marple, and she's having a tea party, and there's poison in there, and it's just showing how Agatha Christie maybe was as a child. I didn't actually see if there was any, like, was this based off of Agatha Christie as she truly was as a kid? Was she as morbid as this? I'm not sure, but it was pretty funny. And then every few pages there's a Miss Marple investigation. So it presents you with a problem, and then based on the words or the picture, you're supposed to be able to solve the riddle. And then there's answer pages at the back that tell you what happened. So here, somebody stole the chocolate cake. Everybody says where they were and supposed to try to figure out what happened. So there's a few of these throughout. And then another thing that I enjoyed was every now and then some of the stories or the comics were named after Agatha Christie's books. So we've got like Crooked House. I know Endless Night was in here. And then there's like some plays on hers. The Mystery of the Blue Train. So Parallel and House. And so that was a cool little addition to it. I had a lot of fun with this. Okay, now my one chunker of a book was Hood this week. So this is the first book in the King Raven trilogy, and this is pretty much this author's idea of how Robin Hood began. So reading the author's note explains why he set it when he did and where he did. So it's actually, instead of Robin Hood taking place in Sherwood Forest, we are in Wales in the late 11th century, I believe. And I did enjoy it. The only problem is a lot of the people have similar names. So for part of it, I was like, okay, is this like a good guy or a bad guy? But we follow a guy named Bran who is heir to, oh, there's like a tickle in my throat. He is heir to this kingdom, but he gets driven out and people think he's dead, but he's not. And then the whole like Robin Hood in the forest robbing the rich to help the poor kind of begins. So this is a trilogy. I flew through this. We were doing a Patreon page count reading challenge over on my Patreon this week. My goal was to finish this book by the end of the day on Friday, which is today, and I finished it Thursday afternoon. And so then I got even more pages in than I was expecting. So I do want to continue this, but I want to leave some space in between my books in my series. I think I'm going to be filming a video right after this that is all the series that I'm currently reading, and I'm going to explain a little bit more there. But I like to have some space in between like book 1 and book 2 or 2 and 3 to make sure that that book is like cemented in my mind before reading it through. Times when I've read a series really quickly, I forget what happens in each book even more than normal. So I'm going to continue the series for sure, but I'm going to wait a few months on that. So I totally forgot a book. The Forgetting. I did talk about it a little bit last week because I was just about to start it when I filmed my wrap-up, and then I finished it by the time my wrap-up came out. I think I like flew through this. So this is a dystopian book about a community that lives in the city called Canaan, and every 12 years they forget everything. Except our main character, Nadia. She has never forgotten, but they're coming close to another time of forgetting, and so she's trying to figure out how to remember, how to make sure her family remembers her, and there's a lot of stuff going on. It's a very fast read. I really did enjoy it. There was a few scenes where I was like, why are those in there? But this is a duology, and I'm quite curious to see where it goes from here. I feel like it was kind of a decent ending, but there is some things that aren't resolved that I want to read book 2 to find out how they're going to explain that, how they're going to resolve that. So yeah, thank you to everybody who told me that I should stick with this book and actually read it, because I almost unhauled it quite a while ago already, and it was worth reading. I did enjoy it. Yeah, so if you're looking for a YA dystopian book, give this one a try. And then, like I said, I am filming this on Friday. I just started, I'm on page 6 of The Unexpected Mrs. Polifax, and this was my Patreon pick that I pulled out from my cards in my TBR this month, and I'm so excited about this because it's about a widow woman who, she's kind of depressed and she decides to become a spy. And that's all I know for the 6 pages that I'm on, and I'm really enjoying it. I already tabbed a spot. Tonight is the reading retreat by the BookTube besties, starting today, going till Saturday. So I feel like by the time this video goes live, I might be actually done this book, or pretty close to. We'll see how it goes, but I'm very excited about this. So let me know what you've been reading this last week, especially if there's something really good that really piqued your interest or you think might pique mine. Let me know.